Welcome back to the Go For It podcast. I'm your host, Steve Harbaugh, and today I have a very special guest. I say that all the time, but it's true today. Tom Tranovich is with me, and the topic is hard money lending. And the number one pushback I get, I can't get into real estate because I can't find money. It's not true. I say find that deal, and Tom, I use this. Welcome to the show, by the way.
Thank you.
I always use this deal, this concept of have the opportunity first, right? If your neighbor came to you, you live in a $400,000 house, and he says, hey, Tom, I got to get out. I'll sell you my house and for $200,000. You're going to find that money because that opportunity is there. I think people getting started out, they say, okay, well, I've got to find the money first and then go find the deal. And I know I've approached you and I said, hey, Tom, this is such a good deal. I need to do it. And you say, hey, Steve, let's make it work. Tom is a little bit more, he's a hard money lender, right? This is the face behind a hard money lender. Everyone thinks it's a term sheet. But I started borrowing at 10 points, meaning if it was $100,000, you know this, the listeners might, their commission would be 10%, which would be 10 grand. And then they would charge me 10% interest. They would take that 6 months. So just walk through a typical deal that we've done. And what you like to see in some other creative ways. So say I came to you and I said, hey, Tom, I got a $200,000 house. It's going to cost me $100,000 to fix it up, and it's going to be worth $400,000 when it's done. What would you want me?
Well, Steve, I mean, a good point you brought up about a relationship. You know, if you have a relationship with someone, that helps a lot. But assuming you don't have a relationship, you're gonna pay more at the beginning. But as long as you produce, like I've had guys come back to me 4, 5, and 6 times. Well, every time they come back to me, usually I lower the interest rate because I have faith in them that they're going to get it done. I give them better terms, and because they make their payments on time and everything's fine. So that's number one. But if you don't have that, ideally you need some type of collateral. When you and I were talking about it, I mean, how much are they going to put down? It all depends on the lender. 5%, 10%. I personally usually require a little bit more, but it doesn't have to be in cash. It could be in another asset. For instance, I'm doing a deal now where someone is putting, actually I did one, it was a pizza parlor in my local town, and he didn't have enough money and capital himself, but his brother had a house that was free and clear. So I put a lien on his brother's house for the first 2 years until he got basically in formula, and then I released that property. So even though you may not have the asset, or the listener out there might not have the asset, maybe your parents have an asset, maybe your brother or a friend or somebody. It's almost like co-signing, and you can pay them something for that. But that could be a way to get you into something. And then once you make the money, now you have more money to invest in the next one. I'm sure you explained to your listeners, then it snowballs. And then you have more money to put down and down and down and down. And then, of course, if you have a relationship with a person, as I said earlier, that helps too, because I'm going to be more flexible to give someone like yourself, because I have a history with you, and every deal we've done, you've performed. So now when you come to me, I'm more interested in doing the loan and giving you a better deal.
I got you. And one of the key things that you always say is that you don't care about their credit.
I don't.
Why?
Because the credit, I mean, it means something. If somebody has 100 and they're in bankruptcy, I don't want to get involved with them. But the bottom line is, what I look for is, I look at the worst case scenario. That person is going to default, and I got to go in there and take over the project. And I need to have enough money to be able to go in there, fix it up, finish what they didn't do, put it in the market, sell it, and get my money back. So that's really what I'm looking at. I really don't look at someone's credit history. I look at the asset. And that's exactly what I look.
Have you ever had to take a property back?
No, but I've got about maybe 8 to 10 loans out. I would hope they'd all default, because I have so much room in them. I would make a boatload of money. Okay, I'm a little bit different because I require more down. But people come to me, sometimes they're distressed, but it's not distress. I just lent a guy $2 million on a boat. He just needed the money quick. He's worth a lot of money.
What was your collateral, though? The boat?
$4 million house in Avalon.
Okay.
50% loan to value, but he needed the money quickly. And that's where I, as a hard money lender, I get a lot of referrals, because I act quickly, and I never fail. When I say I'm going to do a deal, like the deals I've done with you, I've never not been at the table. So, but I'm expensive.
Yep.
So that's
the purpose. And I think that if you're hearing that Tom saying, hey, I require more down, not everybody's that way. I mean,
correct.
These guys that are producing the show right now, they've got hard money lenders that will lend 12%, 3 points, and require them to put 5% into the deal, right? So they're out there, and that's I did 10 and 10. But where you come in, you're like that next step in that, okay, well, once we get established, and your rates, to be honest with you, your interest rate, when I'll be honest, I borrowed $1 million from you at 8.5% interest when rates were at 4. Everybody else wanted 12. It happened to be a shore property, and you did reduce what I needed to put into it because we had a track record. Plus, we build spec homes together. We've done that. But the purpose is, hey, get the money's out there. You can get creative. But you were probably like step 2 as you get the ball rolling.
Right, but to your point, for anyone getting started, the hardest part is getting started. So if you find a hard money lender, get a relationship going. The first one might cost you a lot of money. Your 10 and 10 example, and maybe you don't make that much money, that much profit on that deal. But you establish a relationship, and then you go back to them again and again, and you'll see as you develop a relationship with a person, your terms and conditions usually will become more favorable because you are dealing with someone like me, an individual. You're not dealing with an institution. When you go to a bank, it's A, B, C, and D, and you either fit or you don't fit. When you're dealing with a hard money lender, it's usually someone who's more flexible and is looking at things more creatively, and your personality and how you present yourself and how you perform. If you perform time and time again, you're going to get better terms and conditions.
And that is a good point. It's the first one, right? It's that trust.
First one's the hardest.
And to that point, Tom, I met Tom maybe 10 years ago, and we did a couple houses together that did some hard money lending. But where can that lead you? And we'll talk about why Tom's golf game's a little bit off. So as you guys know, we're doing this project in the islands, and I always talk about, somebody that's next to me, I'm bringing in a partner, an investor, and it's Tom, so it's one of those things where here you and I it's on your bucket list. You say, I've always wanted to develop a private island, and be careful with what you wish for, right?
That's true.
So, and we're doing that together. And look, that started with a hard money relationship. So you have no idea where these relationships are going to take you. One last thing. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, speaking of relationships, how I met Steve was I was doing a project in Stone Harbor, and I did go to a bank, and the bank knew Steve as being a builder, and they recommend I talk to Steve about the project. Turns out your fee was way too high, and I never hired you. But it goes back to you never know. I did not hire you in the first project. I did the project, it became successful, and I started doing other work. Your name came up again, and we met again, and now we're doing a lot of big projects together. So I think it's just a lesson to anyone out there is that relationships are important, and just because it doesn't work at the beginning, don't throw that person out. They might come back around, and you and I have done a lot of successful deals, even though the first one we did not agree on terms and conditions.
I told you were better off just hiring a project. He had how many townhouses?
21.
21. And I was always had to have a fee for each one of those houses.
Yeah.
It would be easier just to hire a guy for $80,000 a year, hire him as a project manager, which you did.
It's basically what I did. Yeah. So I kind of took your advice and it worked out well. But
you did get a good realtor out of the deal, and you sold out pretty quickly. One of the things I always like to try to do is to get in the mindset of somebody just starting out, right? Like for you and I, we might be up here talking about lending, but what suggestions would you do? Like a guy's just starting out. These 3 guys right here producing this show, right? They're 27 years old. They've got a little bit of cash, 3, 4, 5 grand. Maybe some of them have 10. But from a lending standpoint, like how would you, like if you were out there starting again, how would you do it? Like what recommendations were? Now I can't go to somebody like you, right? Because you're going to want 30% down, 20% down, sometimes 10.
Right.
But what would you, if you had to get back in the real estate, how would you start?
Again, you got to start out slow. My first real estate deals, you're probably not going to make money, and you're gonna make some mistakes. So I would anticipate not making money or losing money in your first couple projects.
Did you lose?
100. I didn't lose a lot, but I didn't make a lot, and so that's important. that you don't go in that you're going to make a lot of money at the beginning, because you're going to make mistakes. Everyone does, and that's how you learn. That's how you learn. You're going to pay, like you did, 10 and 10. You're going to pay a lot of interest. You're going to have a lot of expenses that you didn't anticipate because you're new at the game. You're going to make mistakes. So don't anticipate making a lot of money on the first couple of projects, but you'll learn, and then you won't make those mistakes again, and so forth. So I think you have to be realistic and be conservative, and then be creative. I don't have a super good answer for you. You just have to go in, as you had said, find a deal, and then trying to find the money, put to it, explain to someone what you're doing, how you're doing, present it well. You and I work with Excel spreadsheets, lay it all out.
Excel, and I was telling you guys back here, they don't. Some of them know Excel, some of them don't. It's your best friend in this business.
I live in Excel.
You have to.
Anything, budgets and personal things, and it's a great tool.
Someone came to me a couple years ago. Her son didn't want to go to college. I pushed him. He has a construction management degree, and she was a realtor. And I said to her, you should buy your son a piece of property. And I said something to her. I said, I hope he doesn't make any money. And she's like, what? I hope he breaks even. I said, even if you lost 10 grand, to go through that process, hard money lending, getting it in there, buying the property, going to settlement, finding the contractors, fixing it up. If he makes $100,000, he might get a little cocky and say, oh, this was easy, right? But I always say, like you said at the beginning, that's a learning experience. I mean,
Yeah.
you could not, that's so invaluable. Even that thing cost you 100 grand. That education is unbelievable. So, all right. Well, thank you very much for just trying to put a face to these hard money lenders. They're not so hard, and they are nice, and they are great relationships. And you never know where those relationships are going to take you. Exuma, Bahamas.
There you go. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.